It's got
Yeah.
like the greens and stuff in it. And I don't know if that's gave me like this little cough or whatever, but it's a
Oh,
wonderful
weird.
timing for it right before a podcast.
Perfect. That's life.
Um, but yeah, so I was really interested to talk to you because I don't, what is it again that you do?
Face reading beside other tools, but yeah, I use a lot of face reading in my work.
Okay. So
So it's called.
I'm interested in that. So when you say face reading, is
Yeah.
that like micro expressions and stuff like,
No,
okay.
no, exactly. Yeah. So it's called, like, the terminology is psychophysiognomy, but it's a very difficult word. So I call it face reading, but it's not about mimics and gestures. It's really about your birth given features,
Okay.
qualities in your face, in our faces. Yes.
Okay. This episode is brought to you by Excel Coaching Academy. Hey guys, I'm really excited to let you know that I started a mindset coaching business. So what I want to do with this business is I want to help entrepreneurs, business owners, salespeople, leaders, and fitness enthusiasts or athletes develop the right mindset to increase revenue, improve business or performance, and overcome the challenges needed to become the best version of themselves. You can get more information about this by emailing info@excelcoaching.academy.
Mhm.
I'm so like excited to dive into this, but I don't know. Maybe I should let you introduce yourself first because that might explain a lot of it. Because I'm really interested in this.
I'm glad you are.
So if you want to introduce yourself and just say who you are, preface the conversation, and then we'll go from there.
Yes, of course. So yeah, hi. Thanks for having me today. I'm Meike, and my work is all about helping people actually see themselves more clearly. And I combine face reading, epigenetic coaching, and deep self-reflection to really uncover blind spots, patterns, or wrong beliefs we all have, and that shape our lives. So without even realizing it. And that's my, coaching method.
Okay. So so when you I guess read a person's face or look at their
Mhm.
features or whatever, what is it that you can find out about? I mean, do you like, I don't want to say, read their future or anything, but what is it that you do when you read their face?
So it's an analysis actually, and it's never judgmental. It's always focusing on the qualities, because we all have qualities and we are born with that. And then life happens, our
Hmm.
backgrounds, culture, jobs, partners, and then that forms our personality. But to be balanced and really living our individual purpose and happiness, we need to be aligned again with our qualities, and we can see a lot in our faces, or in every faces. So it's a combination, because the forehead tells, even we have 34 areas in our foreheads to tell
Hmm.
about how we think, how we lead, if we are economically driven, if we are more, sensual, if we think things through, if we overthink, if we are determined, then the
Oh wow.
eyebrows, the eyes, the nose, the cheekbones, everything. So
Man,
tell.
that's a lot. That's a lot of messages in a person's
Yeah.
face. Um,
Yes.
I want to say this before we move too far. So your microphone, it sounds like your volume's a little low. So the software might adjust that. I'm not sure about that, but did you say
Yeah.
you had another microphone that you were using for a different
Yes,
podcast?
I use my phone actually,
Okay.
because you couldn't hear me with my laptop. So, and
Okay.
now it doesn't give me any other option. So I just hope it's in full volume. Maybe if I hold it closer to me, it will get
Well, the
better.
software might fix it because the software can balance out the audio. But now I'm getting an echo on my end. Hang on a second, because I got echo cancellation. Did you happen to move the phone closer to the computer or anything, or the vice versa?
I did. I
Okay,
did. Yeah.
that might be where the echo is coming from. Um, Yeah, if you don't mind just adjusting it back to where you had it, because I'm still getting this echo on my end, and then we'll try it that way. Yeah, that's better. Okay, so all right, so but that's a lot that you can figure out from a person's forehead, man. So
Yes,
you're saying, like, you said economically driven, you can tell if they overthink all those
yes,
things.
yes. Or if they think things through, or if they pause before they act, you can see that in the nose root. Then you
Huh.
can see like if they're determined, if they're so many things. You can see if they're good in communication, if they're creative. You even can see that in their hair. Yeah,
Hmm.
eyebrows, eyes, mouth, lips. I mean,
Man, you're gonna have a field day with my face.
but I switch it on and I switch it off. Otherwise it would be too exhausting to
Right.
analyze every person I meet. And it's really purely focused on quality. So a lot of people are kind of scared when I tell them what I'm doing or what I'm using as a method.
Hmm.
But it's really purely focused on qualities.
So, like, one thing that I feel about this, and I know some people feel like they have their resting face is not very approachable, like I feel that way a lot. I don't feel like my resting face. I feel like I look, I don't know, maybe angry or something. Um, but I think a lot of times I'm like thinking about something, like I'm in thought about something. Like if I'm in public, I'm usually like analyzing or thinking about something. But
Mhm.
from the outside, it looks like I'm irritated or, angry or whatever. And I don't really know how to get over that. I don't know if that's a thing you can change, but I just like it hardly ever reflects what I feel inside.
Mhm. Yeah, but that's the thing, because face reading is really not about mimics or gestures. So even if you're in thoughts or if you have like a specific face expression, I can still see your features. And if you are more aware of your qualities and aware of yourself, then of course you can change. You know which situations you feel more comfortable, or if you need maybe a break to first think things through or something like that. So that also, of course, then at a second step changes your behavior or your face expression.
Hmm. Okay. So you mentioned the eyes too. And I feel
Yes.
like
Yeah.
I'm not experienced in this like concept or anything, but I feel like the eyes are very, very telling for a person. Like you can tell a lot about a person through the eyes. And that's just from the
Absolutely.
outside looking in, not being in this space.
Yeah, and it's the saying that our eyes are the portal to the soul, you
Mm,
know?
yep.
So, and that's if you, a lot of people are not even anymore looking at in each other's eyes, and you can also see that a lot of people are distracted and
Mm.
not really listening or focusing on the person they're speaking with. And that you can see, of course, if they are looking at the other person's eyes.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know, man. I feel like the eyes are just like, I mean, that is what we have to communicate. Like that's how we can see another person. Like it's how we can see another person, but we can also see into another person based on what their eyes are expressing. I feel like, you know.
100%. And this is also when people are saying, can you see if somebody's lying?
Mm,
Yes, I can, but that's always a combination of the eyes and the mouth. So you have to check both. And sometimes you know if someone is really laughing, if someone is really authentic there with you or not. So we all have this intuition actually, right?
right. Did you say nose and mouth also? That's something to be
Yes,
analyzed.
yes. So the nose speaks for the character.
Hmm.
And we can see if there's a strong character, if they can carry a lot, if they are also like enjoying good things or food, if they're more intuitional driven in their decision making or more rational driven. These things you can see. And in general, you see the right side and the left side. And of course, we know we all don't have the same, right side, left side.
Mm-hmm.
But you can see if a phase is more in balance or not. And we are more in balance if we live our qualities. And the phase also changes over time when we are aware about our qualities and are living them. So then the mouth is changing, the cheeks, everything can change, but the ears, they will always be like you were born with.
Hmm. Okay. So, all right. So what I kind of see this going in a direction, and I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. I may be wrong about this. I don't know. But do you help people basically analyze their own features to determine their qualities to live in balance with that? Is that something, because you mentioned epigenetics too, and I'm trying to figure out the connection.
Yeah, so that's one side to really help people who are or who went for a long time, maybe for therapy, right? And they're still frustrated. They don't know if they're in the right career path, if why they're so frustrated, what's happening. And they use it as analysis tool for them to just list them their features, their qualities. Can also be resources for a crisis. And then through that, they feel seen and then they talk and then I get quicker to the bottom of maybe wrong beliefs or traumas they have experienced in the past. And then I go back, to the next step, to the coaching. Or I can tell them, okay, if you're in a crisis or in a challenge, why don't you use your musicality, which you haven't lived, for a long time? Or you're very courageous. Are you aware of that? Or very practical or things like that.
Okay, that makes sense. But I'm assuming it's not just positive qualities that we can find in these features, right? There's probably some negative qualities in there somewhere, I would imagine. I mean, because like I have a belief that that everything kind of exists in opposites. Like if there's something that's really good, there's probably an equivalent bad. There's at least a possibility of that, Or if there's like a really good thing that happens, or let's say there's a really bad thing that happens, there's probably something really good that can come from that if you use it in a certain way. So is because I mean everything we're talking about right now is kind of like positive traits or at least somewhat positive qualities. Can you see also like negative qualities in these features?
I would say I don't call it negative qualities because qualities are always good and helping us.
Okay.
I call it learning fields. So if I see there's an imbalance in the face, or I can tell an example with me. You see this little, hole here in my chin. That speaks for someone who is very much self-critical, or tend to be more perfectionist. You can see it as a quality for sure, but you can also see it, okay, maybe in some situation when I'm kind of feeling hindered or challenged, then I remember myself, okay, that's my chin talking, So I let it go. It's fine. It's good enough,
Yeah.
So if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, and that's actually a pretty good example of what I was just talking about because if I don't think being self-critical, I don't know if it's good or bad, I don't know, but I think the good that comes out of that is you're probably self-aware, about yourself.
Yes.
Now if you're being critical about the things you're aware of, that might not be good, but it's just I don't know. I think there's just good that comes out of there's just things that exist in opposites. So okay, so you're helping these people with their identifying these features basically, and then you're helping them use that to kind of live in balance or harmony with epigenetics. Is that right?
Yeah, so my coaching approach is an holistic one, right? So
Okay.
because I believe if your mind, body, and soul is in balance, then you can master any challenge, you can live and find your purpose, and you can live a better or happier life. So epigenetics is also very individual because we all have our DNA, we can't change it. But epigenetics is that there are factors in our life which can silence the bad genes, the one who makes us sick, and can activate the good genes. So if we know what's going on in our DNA, what are, again, qualities, or maybe, learning fields, or in that case, like sick making things. The good news is that we are not like the victim of our genes, as we thought for a long time, but the master. So through changing our nutrition, through changing our thoughts, through changing our environment, and so on, we can really have a huge impact of our genes, and even fight cancer, prevent things we might have inherited from our, mothers, fathers, grandparents, and so on, and even change it for our children, for next generations.
Okay. So I would like to think of myself as a very driven, ambitious person. And so I don't know, sometimes every once in a while, or sometimes whatever, I'll meet somebody and they'll tell me that I have a lot of drive or whatever. And I like, there's things that I want to achieve in my life, I feel like. And when you're talking about this balance and this harmony, I think that's a part of kind of who I am, but also too, I have to know when to balance that out and not to be driven to solve every single thing that exists. Like a big learning part for me with this was like intimate relationships. Like, problems don't have to be solved right there at that very minute. You know what I mean? And so I don't know. As you're saying this, like, I'm thinking about my personal traits or qualities.
Yes, and I can see that in your face. We had a quick intro, and I told you a little bit what I've seen in your face, and I can see you're very driven. You're very determined. You're very straight. You also have a lot of creativity, and I don't know how or if you're living that, because if you live that, then you can go back to balance. Because you need to move. You need to move your body. To get back into balance. So if you know about these things, that helps. And if your partner knows how you're functioning, what are your qualities are, and you know about your partner's qualities, then that releases a lot of tension. So that's what I do with couples, actually, or to tell people, okay, not how could be your perfect match look like, but which qualities would make you more complete or more balanced, that can also help. It's all about creating awareness, actually,
Yeah, man, I say a lot that I think self-awareness can eliminate or at least lessen a lot of problems that we have. Like, if we were just self-aware,
100%. Yes.
Because I think a lot of us, man, we're just so caught up in our own minds, in our own life, in our own world, and it's like how you see, you mentioned environment earlier, and man, there's millions of different environments for a person, like in the same place with other people. You know what I mean? It's like it's a different place to everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And environment can also be, living in a city or living in the nature, can be which friends do you have around, which role plays your family, which dynamics are there. So it's all environment,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Mm,
I've kind of lived in a small town. I've lived in a small town pretty much my entire life, and I've always been like drawn to the city. Like, I want to live in a big city. And you mentioned creativity, man. It's got me thinking about that. Like, that's kind of like, I think a big city is like, it's like a symbol for like possibilities. Like new possibilities. And that's I'm gonna have to do some thinking on this now, because that's got me curious about that. I mean,
And
I
of
don't
course,
think the city is like the link to the creativity. I think there's some other things going on there, but yeah, I don't know.
yeah, it's also, of course, it speaks to you being wanting to be like fast paced, or moving around. You mentioned it yourself, opportunities. The question is, would that be the right environment? How can you live your fast paced ambition, determination, creativity outside? What else do you need? Do you need nature? Do you? So it's
That's
something to discuss. Yeah. I
That's
think so.
actually a really good point, man, because I think a lot of times people might have a trait or a quality or, an idea or goal, and they want to put it out in the world. They want to do the thing, whatever the thing is. But if they're in the wrong environment, if they're not in the right place, that can, I think there's a verse from the Bible that says, do not cast pearls before swine, which basically means like don't offer things to people who don't see the value in it, or not,
Yes.
not
Yeah.
necessarily people, but I mean, it's just like that. It's like it devalues what you have to offer if you're putting it in a place that it's not meant for.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's a
Um,
good point. Yeah.
so I don't know. I feel like, I think once maybe you find out what this thing is for you or what that quality is for you, maybe environment is the next big step, like the next big, choice to make.
Absolutely. And it can be the current job you're in right now,
Mm,
or if you realize I need to be self-employed, I need to be independent working, then I'm more, um, I do have more impact. I do feel more purpose. It's closer to my qualities. Or in a big group, in a community, then you can figure out, okay, what is it what I'm now doing? Is it the right task? Is it the right thing? Does that speak to my qualities? And then the next one are the people supporting this. Am I in the
hmm
right community again, or circle of people? I can live that, they appreciate that, or I can, help them. And then you go step by step. But the first step is always to understand yourself,
hmm
first. And then, of course, try out or go with a mentor or coach to figure that out.
So if a person comes to you and says that they don't really know what these things are for them, where would you start? I mean, how do you even start with that?
Hmm. Yeah, I would really start with a proper analysis. I can do it online or I can do it, in person, and then go through their face. It's like a map for me, and it always has to be in a combination. You can't focus on, oh, big eyes, small eyes. That means this and that. You always have to see how it goes together. What is dominant? Then you look at the side head, the axis. There are so many things you look at, like a map. And then you ask, or I ask the people, are you aware about this and that? How do you live that in right now? They don't have to tell a lot about themselves beforehand, and I
Hmm.
prefer that because then it's more impactful. Because of course I come across a lot of hesitance when I do that the first time. And I said, you don't
hmm
have to tell me anything. I just tell you what I see, and you can afterwards you can tell me, yeah, that's true or not, or and through that, going over the face and the qualities and not being judgmental, you come into conversation, and then it unfolds.
Hmm. Okay. And then, so based on what that analysis is, you can help a person determine what those qualities are for within themselves, and then they
In
can.
their current life, or to see the imbalances and talk them through, ask questions what that could be. And often it is, wrong beliefs. They're believing that's their reality, that's the truth, and they
Mm,
have lived with these wrong beliefs for a long time. Or it is a blind spot they haven't seen, and it's like a aha moment for them, a wake up call. I can also see some sicknesses before they appear in the body, and then we can take it, step further, or they can take it a step further, and that gives orientation. And that's actually, I want to be a compass to
hmm
help everybody to get back into clarity. And if you're clear and if you're awake, then you're a better decision maker, and then it
right.
unfolds, and you're motivated.
I love the way you put that, a compass, because I think that's pretty accurate. Because I think what we're talking about right here is identity, like understanding your identity, and that's something that we talk about a lot on this podcast is understanding identity. Um,
Yeah.
because it's for so many of us, man. There's the hustle of the daily life, and the world is just life's just so fast. There's a lot going on, and a lot of us, I think, unfortunately, allow outside influences or sources to define who we are or who we should be. You know, we have
Absolutely.
society, we have, you know, systems in place, education, and all this kind of stuff, and we go through these things for a lot of years. And I don't know, where are you at again? Where are you located?
I'm in Athens, Greece.
Okay. So I don't know
Yeah.
what it's like there, but I know in America, like the education system, a lot of people think the education system is basically indoctrination of, you know, like fit into this box type thing.
Mhm.
And I think it was Albert Einstein, so basically one of the smartest people that's ever lived, said that everybody's a genius, but if you
Mhm.
judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will
Yeah,
live its whole life thinking that it's stupid. So it's
that's
like we all, it's like this sense of identity, man. Understanding who you are is like so important, and I think we lose that. And I'm not saying I have the answer on what the alternative would be, because it's, you know, there's a lot of people to educate, but
Mhm.
I don't know. It's just so important to know who you are and like what it is that you need to bring to the world, you know.
I totally agree. I totally agree. Yes, and it's said everywhere, like quotes or on a coffee cup, or be yourself, be authentic,
Hmm.
then you live a happier life, and also for the big good. It doesn't mean everyone should be like running around selfishly, that's my quality, so I have to live it now.
Right.
It's always has to be within a community, within for
Hmm.
the bigger good, you know? But barely anyone really knows who they are. It also took me a long. It's a process. It's an ongoing
Hmm.
process.
Right.
And of course, it takes a lot of courage and environment
Right.
who's understanding when you change your behavior. You know.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's what, so I talk a lot about here on social media too, but I think that's one of the positives of social media and the internet is that you can meet people who are in, you know, a like-minded space as you, and you can offer that to that, you know, like if you, like, I just can't imagine, I don't know, I guess I can't imagine having a thing that I felt like I was supposed to offer to the world and then felt like, you know, I didn't really have a place for that. I feel like that would be incredibly depressing. And so I appreciate the fact that the internet has opened up that opportunity to a lot of people. Cause like I said, like I grew up in a small town, and, I mean, these kind of conversations really didn't happen. Like a podcast, this kind of stuff really didn't happen in those, you know, in those spaces. And so I do appreciate that the internet. I know it sounds like I talk a lot about negative things about social media, but I do appreciate that the internet has offered that, because man,
Mhm.
like whatever that thing is for a person, they are the only one that can live that story. You know, I mean, there's people that do similar things. People have similar lives than that you do, but like there is only one individual you know, and it's only going to be your story.
Absolutely. And see, look, you live your ambition, or one part of your ambitious human being and your creativity through that,
Mm.
opening up, sharing your opinion, looking for guests, creating this environment, the podcast globally, and sharing that to your audience.
Well, that's a good way to put it. I didn't
More
think about it like
open-minded.
that.
Mhm.
Now I don't have to do so much soul searching on my on my creativity. I don't know, man. I just, you know,
It's just an
I don't know.
impulse, I see the creativity for sure, and how you live it, what you do, but that's also the beauty, because I give the people the impulses, and if you keep on thinking about it, there is something true on it, right? Because you keep on thinking, and I love that, to inspire others
Mm.
to live their true self.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Well, I don't know. Sometimes I get like I'll go off on tangents. Like I'll talk about things that are kind of like unrelated, but I just get curious about it. Like a question comes up and I want to explore it, you know. And I know some people, I don't know, maybe some people don't like that. Some people more structure. Um, I think I would consider myself driven, but I don't know if I'm like rigid or like, you know, everything has to fit in this box this way. Which I guess if we're talking about creativity, it would kind of be hard to be creative if you had to fit, everything in that space.
Exactly.
So,
Maybe you got some feedback, from the outside. You might be rigid or you might be too structured. I don't know, because I can't see it in your face. And if we live it, like when we know about it, then it's nothing bad with it. Of course, we all have borders in our life. We can't just do whatever we want.
right, right.
Of course. But if we live our qualities within these borders, there's no harm, there's no tension, but sometimes there are old voices in our head, and they're whispering something, and all our thoughts are actually illusions. Fear is an illusion. All
Mm.
these things which are hindering us, which are creating tension in us. Yeah.
I think anytime somebody's called me rigid, it's been related to discipline, which is really just a prerequisite to a goal that I'm trying to do, which is really just related to drive and at the end. So it doesn't really matter. But I don't know, man. I think all right, so I want to shift gears just a little bit about epigenetics because we're talking
Mhm.
about, so I don't really have a solid understanding on what epigenetics are. I
Mhm.
know, like here, we're talking about, it sounds like qualities, traits of the personality, stuff like that,
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
are sort of shown through the face. So
Mhm.
when you say epigenetics, are you talking about like how we react genetically to certain things, or what do you mean? Like what do you do in epigenetics? Because I know that's like a big space. That's broad.
Let me give you like a kind of example to explain it better. You have a piano, and you
Hmm.
have all these, tabs you're using to play the piano, and
Right.
that's set. It's a set. You can't change that. But so that's our DNA. We can't change it. But how you play it, how you
Mm.
play them. You can create like a jazz, you can create a classical piece, you can create a loud one or a more silent one. Um, and this is what we can do, how we can play our genes um, through our behavior. And there are a couple of factors. One is nutrition, how we eat according to our genes. Some people can eat more like sugar, or they even need meat, or they need something else more, because they have a different metabolism or they have different genes. So first step is to have an analysis, again, a knowledge of your predispositions, your individual specific DNA, and where you should be careful if you're, faster in getting some inflammations, or if not, if you're a person who gets like hidden inflammations, which leads to chronic diseases. Again, it's creating awareness. If you need more vitamin D, that already helps you to get less inflammations, or you have some predispositions in your bones, things like that, or organs or hearts. And then you can, of course, if you have that knowledge, you can individually go into specific nutrition, or to also work with your physio movements, exercising, because a lot of people think, okay, it's important to exercise, but they do too much or the
Mm.
wrong things, heavy weightlifting instead of just walking every day. Then you have the psychoepigenetic factor. So where do your beliefs stand? Because it's an axis between like the gut and the testimonial. Sorry, I don't know the English word, but you know what I mean. The
Right.
digestion operative, and depression. So the thoughts and your intestines are close related. Then you have the environment, social environment, or like really toxic environment in a big city, things like that. And so if you know your specific predispositions, then you know what to do to silence the bad genes and to activate, stimulate the good ones who keep you healthy, specific you.
Mm. Okay. Yeah, that's really powerful. So diet, beliefs, and environment.
Yes. And
Yeah.
exercising, the physio epigenetic factors too. Yes.
Yeah, I found out kind of the hard way that I'm not really a runner. Like I don't know.
How?
I had a couple different like strains and stuff from running, so I had to do cardio different ways. But
Yeah.
but I mean, people. That's a good point because people have different body types, and
Yeah.
I think the gym is a really good example because if somebody's trying to start, they're probably going to follow what somebody else is doing, online or whatever. Um,
Yeah.
and I say all the time that like fitness is not a one size fits all. You have to figure out what works for you.
Absolutely. And it's a different layer because I can already see that in the face, what would be good for that person.
Hmm.
And then if you see it more scientifically, like with the facts and numbers of a DNA analysis, you can even show that to the people better. And it's always the same, So it helps.
I think a lot of these things, unless somebody's working with somebody like you, a lot of these things people kind of find out through experience, through experimenting with with different things. I know diet's a big one too. Like diet really affects people differently.
Yes.
Because I know people who have celiac disease, which is the gluten sensitivity,
Mm-hmm.
and some people can eat things with gluten and be completely okay. Some people can't. Some people react differently to like very heavy carbs, pasta. Not pastas, but like the heavy carbs,
Yeah.
sugars, like you said. Some people react differently to it, and so I think being aware of that is very important. Um,
Yes.
and then beliefs too. Man, beliefs are so like
Mhm.
I could talk. We could have literally a several-hour conversation about how important beliefs are.
Yes, they are. They are.
But I think it's the biggest thing about that is it your belief? Like I said earlier, did it come from somebody else or is it something that you believe about yourself? And if you do believe it about yourself, then why do you believe it? Is it positive or negative? And why do you believe that belief? Because I talk a lot about self-confidence and stuff like that. And I think self-confidence essentially is proving yourself to yourself. That's basically what it is. Like if you tell yourself you're going to do something, you do it, you keep a promise to yourself. Like if I tell somebody that I'm going to do something and I do it, and maybe that increases trust with that person, it's the same thing with yourself.
Yes, 100%. And we all live with ourselves,
Yeah,
We
yeah.
die just with ourselves, and we have to look into our own mirror every evening, and we have to be in peace with us. We have to like ourselves first.
Hmm. Yes, that self-love, that's another big one too, man. I think a lot of us a lot of us have an issue with that for one reason or the other.
Yeah, but
Oh, I'm so
so
sorry. Hang on just a second. My camera just went out on.
okay.
I'm sorry. My camera wasn't plugged in. It's on a
Oh,
battery,
good.
so it died. Um
Good.
yeah, no, I think self-love, man. I think a lot of people have an issue like truly loving themselves. And that's also really depressing to me.
Yeah, and it again starts with accepting. And as you said earlier, to ask yourself, why do I think not so good about myself? Why do I not love myself? Why, do I have issues with myself? Is it really coming from myself or is it came in from an environment? And I only use the past as to understand, especially wrong beliefs or circumstances. And at the same time, I love to again look at these like survival mechanism we had to use in our childhood or going through some traumas as qualities when we are an adult. That helps extremely, then otherwise you become bitter, you become, hateful. That doesn't help ourselves and our environment.
Mm. Do you work with people that has a big issue with loving themselves? Do you
Yes,
see that a lot?
yes, I do. I do. I
Do you
do.
think that comes from, does it come from childhood? Because I think I know it's probably different for every person, but
Mhm.
most of it, does a lot of it come from childhood? Because I feel like when we talk about that, it's easy to think about it comes from childhood, but then I think about like adulthood, man, is even like, you know, sometimes adulthood can be, I don't, well, I guess it depends on the person whether it's harder than childhood, but I don't know. It's easy to think about childhood, but I just know a lot goes on in adulthood. Like people have jobs, and
Yeah.
a lot of people get self-worth from their jobs. Like they feel a certain way based on how their jobs go, or if they get a job or don't get a job, or a boyfriend or not a girlfriend, whatever it is. Um, so what do you think? I mean, do you see a lot from childhood, or is it kind of a mix of both?
It's a mix, and even if it's from childhood, it's not always like that they were bad parents, because even parents, they always do what they think is best, and they don't say one sentence intentionally, or they mean it, in a good way or to encourage. But a child kind of gets programmed in a different way, because in our first 5 years, we can't really differentiate from what's us and what's the outside. So we just suck these belief or these sentence in as a belief. And then, of course, it's like, yeah, high school, at school, teachers, siblings, other classmates, bullying, non-bullying, later on partner or jobs. It can be everything. And I'm not blaming any where it came from, just to show, okay, let's focus on the belief and let's check it if this belief is true. And then I go into a specific momentum. And sometimes it's in their childhood, sometimes it's, in their adult life. And then I question it with them. So I'm just using that situation as an anchor. And then we go through that. And then they realize, okay, it was just a belief. And most of the time, the other person wasn't intentionally wanting to hurt. And
Right.
then you solve one belief after another. And then, that helps a lot with self-love.
Mm. That makes sense. I'm convinced that like we don't really become adults until we realize that our parents, like they're basically just children with children, like they
Yes.
don't like they
Yeah.
I think a lot of us when as we're growing up, we think of our parents as like that, I guess depending on the circumstances, maybe they're perfect, maybe they're not, but we think about them as somebody who has it all figured out.
Mhm.
But I think when you become an adult, you realize that like they don't. I mean, they're just people. They're
Yes.
just people, and
Yes.
maybe they
Yeah.
said something or did something or whatever, but they're just people.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's an excuse for anything if they did something bad,
No. No.
but at the end of the day, they're just people just like us. Uh, and I think I don't know. I think once you realize that, I think that is when you yourself become an adult. You're like, okay, well, you know, this is how it is. Like
I,
I'm what they were then.
yeah, and nowadays we need a certification or a degree for everything. It
Hmm.
starts with a driver's license or with some sports or jobs and whatever, but nobody needs a certificate to become a parent.
Right.
And I realized it because I'm a mom of two. It's okay. Nobody really, explained to me what it is. And it's a huge responsibility. And we are all human beings, you
Mm.
know, and it's not easy, but being, just pure and authentic. And also you can say, okay, I messed it up. I'm sorry. I'm just, try to do my best um, is okay, and even if you're coming from a very tough childhood, and there are cases out there, very, very toxic and aggressive childhoods, you still can change your story. And then I focused on of course, there were survival mode patterns, and behaviors programmed into these people. They had to. And then we look at it, okay, you had to be like that, but now you're an adult, you don't have to be like that, but how can you use it? Like adaptability, being like silent and pleasing everyone, you don't need to do that anymore as an adult. First step. And the second step, okay, you know what? It can also be a quality. So you will be very successful maybe in a service oriented job. So, again, changing perspective, reframing things is also very helpful. But of course, trauma has to be, of course, addressed and helped with. That's also something, of course, I wanted to say,
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Reframing like what you think it is that happened, and I think that's kind of what I was talking about earlier when I said that the good and the bad. There's good and bad. There's bad and good. But I think I don't think we can we can't transform that experience into something good until we first are aware. First of all, we're aware of that is a possibility, but then also too that we have the belief in ourselves to even make that a good thing. Like you talk about this
Yes.
person who they would be good in a service oriented job. Well, some people
Yes.
might hear that, be in that space and they might think, well, how could I ever do that when this is my experience of serving others? So it's again that self belief is like powerful.
Yes. Good point. Yeah.
You mentioned, I've never thought about this, but you mentioned like nobody has to be qualified or like take a course or a class to become a parent. Like you can a person can become a parent. And it's crazy. Like, you have to have a degree to become a doctor or any of these other great things, but like bringing a person into the world, which is probably the best thing that a person can do.
Absolutely.
You don't have to have a class for you could just do that if that's what you want to do,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. People change the world, and I get that, but I think that's only possible because somebody brought them into the world first.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know. It's just fascinating that we like, I mean, that is a good point. Like you don't have to have a class or a course to become a parent. I don't know, man. So anyway, all right. So the epigenetics, you said, diet, health, like fitness and health, environment, beliefs. Well, I guess maybe we touched on environment earlier. We were talking about, being in the wrong environment, like trying to contribute something to a place that maybe doesn't understand it or doesn't appreciate it, or, in a worse scenario, if, what I've found is if like people, and this is not a lot of people, it's very few people, fortunately, but if somebody's not bringing their thing to the world, they will really criticize someone else who's bringing theirs to the world. It's like some people don't want you to outshine them, unfortunately. It's not like do better than them. It just like puts the light on the fact that they're not pursuing that path for themselves. And I guess it's like jealousy or envy or whatever. And what I wish people would realize is like if they're in that spot, because I've been in that spot, I've seen people do things, and I'm like, man, I like, why do I feel this way about that? And it's like, oh, well, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. But it's like all you have to do is do your thing, and then that disappears. It's not like that person's not bad for pursuing the thing they want, like, pursuing this career or whatever. Like it's just you feel that way because you're not doing the thing, and you wouldn't feel that way if you did what it was you're supposed to do, whatever that is for you.
Yeah, and I believe every person, we have some strong feelings, even if it's anger, jealousy, something, it triggers something in us. So that person we come back to the reframing, it's a mirror for ourselves. So that person just shows us, okay, what's still something in ourselves we might work on, because sometimes jealousy, there might be some insecurities still there, or something else. So every person we come across with, or even when we adore some strengths of somebody, that's something we have in ourselves. So maybe we should be more courageous and say, hey, maybe I can also be like that. Maybe I can't be a doctor, but I can help and heal people in a different way,
Mm-hmm.
always staying curious, staying open-minded, and feeling the triggers, the positive and the, painful ones.
Mm-hmm. I think that's the bad part of comparing ourselves to other people. Comparing
That
ourselves to who we
never
think we're supposed to
helps.
be.
That
Yeah.
never helps. As you said earlier, every one of us is special, is unique, is very
Mm-hmm.
individual and not comparable at all. So it doesn't make any sense. It's an illusion, like fear. It's just an illusion who hinders us to be balanced, as simple as it is. It's not simple living, I know, but
Yeah. No.
actually at the end of the day, it is pretty simple. If you see, that's just a thought. It's just an illusion. Do I really know if that person is so happy, so successful? We don't know.
Well, you probably whatever it is that you see is probably not. I mean, that's probably a very small portion of the person's life.
Yes,
Like you don't see the majority of it.
yes,
And I
I
think
agree.
I think we just had to be careful, just automatically assuming that we would want to trade places with the person, because first
Yes,
of all, you don't want to be them, because then if you're them, you're not you, and if you're not you, you can't do what you're supposed to do in this world. But then,
exactly.
like, you don't even know what this person's life really is, really. Even if you think like there's things like we talked about earlier, you are with yourself 24 hours a day. You don't know what goes
Yeah,
through this person's mind. Like, I mean, on the outside, they might be successful, but they might be absolutely miserable inside,
yeah, yes. Or their past was painful, or the future will be painful. It doesn't make any sense
Mm-hmm.
to compare or to even think of somebody else, but just being helpful and supportive to others. Yeah.
Some people, there's a lot of people that believe that we're all the same consciousness living different experiences. So it's like you are that person anyways, like you're an extension of that person. Like we're connected to the same divine power. I mean, I don't necessarily believe that. I think that we're all like we're connected to a divine creator, but I think we are all individuals. I think what we do on a collective level, like the collective level of the entire human race, I still think all that is the individual doing their part. Because if everybody
I
does the same thing, it's like that's what the society is.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. We are connected, and we are made to support each other, with all our specific qualities and skills.
Hmm.
That's what I believe, and we should collaborate much more. Yeah.
Um, we've kind of been all over the place today, I feel like. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we haven't touched on?
I think it is really all about self-reflection and how important that is,
Hmm.
and yeah, sometimes it's also good as you're, giving this safe space to your guests and as a consequence to your audience. I love to do it also offline, as offering a safe space on an island, especially here. Greece it's just perfect
Hmm.
for these, gatherings to create a safe space to do a proper self-reflection and leaving with some tools to handle back in the day-to-day life. So I think it's just all together combined. It's pretty important.
100%. Um, I've never been outside of the U.S. I want to travel. I've been around the U.S. a good bit, but I've never been outside. I'm going to have to add Greece to one of the places I want to visit now.
Absolutely. So we're always happy. I'm happy to welcome you. It's
I've never
beautiful.
been, like I said, I've never been outside the U.S. I do want to go to. I would like to visit Japan. I think Japan would be cool.
Yeah.
Greece. Now that we're talking about it, uh, for some reason I want to go just see what Russia's about. Man, I don't know. It's like I know it's probably cold and you know.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. But you have so many beautiful, states in your country, and you have from
Hmm.
beaches to mountains. You have everything. So It's a
Yeah,
pretty big country with so many opportunities
I'm
nature-wise.
only a few
Yeah,
hours from the beach.
it's
From
awesome.
I live in the southeast, so
Awesome.
um, so do you have social media, a website, or anything?
I do, yeah. I have as we talked about the compass before, so I have a website, compass-setting.com, and I have an Instagram account, and offering free consultations to get to know my work. And there you can also find my retreat in
Okay.
Greece. Mhm.
And I think you sent me some stuff, but if you haven't, if you send it to me, I'll attach it I'll put it in the
Yeah,
videos and stuff.
perfect.
Um,
Thank you, Cody.
so one thing that I ask everybody before we close, and I'm really curious to hear your answer on this. If you could share one of the most important lessons you've ever learned, it can be from your personal life, if you're comfortable sharing it, or your career. What do you think is one of the most important or the most valuable lessons you've ever learned?
I've learned so much. Sometimes I feel already so old. But I think one of the most important lessons is, if you change something, or if you went through some challenges, don't go back. Just even if it's painful, if there is a challenge or a crisis, take the learning out of it. I always try to reframe, change the perspective, and even when something painful happened, you changed. So take that as a skill, a strength, and as a learning to go forward. Don't go back anymore.
Hmm.
And I keep on telling myself this, living that, and that helped me through a lot, actually. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that because I can see how that would be very empowering.
Mhm.
You know, I, I appreciate that. Um, well, listen, it's been a great conversation talking to you. I appreciate
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Cody, for having me.
I
It's
appreciate your
great talking
insight.
to you. Love it.
I'm gonna stop the video if you can hang out for just a second. But I do appreciate it there.
Thank you.
Hey, listen, guys, I really appreciate you tuning in today. If you enjoyed this podcast, if you found it useful or beneficial, you can subscribe, follow, interact, and see more content at Pure Wisdom Podcast. This is all social medias: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Rumble, Spotify, Amazon Music, and Google and Apple Podcasts. Again, we appreciate you tuning in, and we'll see you next time.